Welcome back, you guys, to Menopause Love Lounge. We have all of your lovely ladies in the lounge with us today.
This made me think of this moment that I wanted to share with all of you, which is that day after day after day, I would complain to my husband in the morning about my sleepless nights and just like how it was going to ruin my day and I come to finally realize, he explains to me that he also sleeps like absolute crap. He just doesn't
Didn't
mind.
tell you.
No,
What
he
is
just
that?
doesn't mind.
Mind.
It's like, imagine the experience with none of the story, right? All the experience with none of the judgment.
Without the story.
The amount that I was like, this is wrong. I am bad. What is wrong with me that I can't control my mind? I can control my mind during the day. Why can't I do it at night? Like, I was weighing myself down. So when he said that, he was like, well, who cares that you didn't sleep? I'm like,
what?
It never occurred to me. Who cares that I didn't sleep? Oh, so you feel tired? Who cares? like
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Afternoon for some of you, I guess. We're a little bit off on the time. We've got a lot of time difference going on here, but we are all here joined together today. And we are talking about anxiety today, how anxiety rears its ugly head when it comes to menopause, also overthinking, all of those things that give us the jitters a lot, right? So the thing about menopause that nobody really prepares us for isn't just those hot flashes that we keep getting or all of the sleep problems. It's the moment when you start looking at your life and thinking, why do I suddenly feel so anxious, right? Why am I doubting myself? And honestly, we're asking ourselves, who even am I right now? So women have been confident, capable, and holding everything together for decades, you guys. That's how long we've been doing this. And we suddenly find ourselves forgetting words. We're all there, right? Second guessing decisions, or we're feeling like the version of ourselves that we've worked on for so long is kind of slipping through our fingers. And that's really, really scary. So today in the lounge, we are getting real about something a lot of women experience in menopause, but they don't always talk about. We're going to talk about the anxiety, the identity wobble, and that strange feeling that your old self just doesn't quite fit anymore. Is it just hormones? Or is it menopause actually being the moment where we stop performing the roles we've carried for everyone else and we start figuring out who we really are, right? Isn't that exciting? I think it's exciting to get to do that. It is.
So
It
well
is.
said.
It's
So well
very,
said.
very
Yeah.
exciting. So we're going to dive in today because we always do our personal reflections first. So we're going to share where the identity unraveling has hit us personally and what it's stirred up beneath the surface, right? And then we've got some stats. Ozzy's going to throw some stats at us today and find out what everyone else is going through out there because we need to know. And of course, we're going to hit you in the end with our legs wide open section. We've got Menopause Court Overthinking Edition.
I can't wait.
Overthinking
My favorite thing.
I have anxiety about that.
Well, we've done our grounding. We are ready to proceed. We are all in a calm space. So let's talk, you guys. Let's talk about where everybody's at. So who wants to go first? I'm going to, Laurie.
I'm back to going first.
Back. I love it.
So much to say about anxiety. I feel like I have a PhD in anxiety.
I love it.
So I've been coaching people for over 20 years, and the main premise behind the coaching technique I use is that lying causes anxiety. It's something that I think distinguishes the methodology that I teach from some of the other things that are out there, and was something that I loved when I found it because it was so sort of like intrusive to my status quo. Anyway, flash forward to the beginning of perimenopause and incredibly anxious nights, like 2, 3, 4 a.m., sometimes all the way till dawn, sometimes just a few hours of just like racing thoughts, rumination, fear, panic, even some panic attacks during the day. And having to, and it honestly, I'm going to be honest, it took me years actually to find the lies, and I'm putting lies in quotes because for sure, if you're like in an addiction, or if you're cheating on your spouse, or if you are,
Obvious stuff.
skimming off the top at work, like obvious lies are going to cause stress and anxiety. But mine were absolutely not obvious. And they were not like what you would call bad girl. We have a saying in this method, there's like dark and Disney dark. Like my dark side is kind of Disney dark. It's like not that dark. But it turned out, so I'll just fast forward in the interest of time. It turned out that a bunch of identity things needed to shift. And one of the main ones was that I was just taking on too much at work and I needed help. And in that, like having a nervous breakdown, quote unquote, or like destabilizing panic attacks was the way that I was able to ask for help in that time and in that moment. And it ultimately worked, although it was the rockiest, most unpleasant ride. Eventually I got the help that I needed. And then eventually I got the freedom that I needed going solo into my own business 5 years ago, where I could kind of control everything and really manage my schedule and really decide how much I wanted to work in a day. And in those 5 years also, my entire friend group changed. Wow. So again, I want to say this out loud to normalize, like there were a lot of lies I was telling myself, not the kind that are really harmful to other people, mostly the type that were harmful to myself. Because I was like, this is providing what I need. No, it wasn't. Right? Like it was, head, heart, and hoo-ha. Like it looked good on paper, but it was not actually satisfying my heart. So all of that changed over the last 5 years in perimenopause. And I think as a result of catalyzed by crippling anxiety. So now I can look back and go, okay, that anxiety was a gift. And when anxiety arises now, thank God, in a much smaller, more manageable ways, also a gift. It's trying to tell me something. I have to listen. I have to stop if it's stopping me. And so that's really like the main thing I want to say about anxiety. But I just want to throw in an honorable mention to being this honorable mention to the sandwich generation, right? So for the last 5 years, I've also been caring for young children, launching children, and caring for a combined 4 or 5 cancers in my parents. Like,
oh wow,
I'm sorry, but like, it's been a lot.
You
don't feel like it's a lot.
You're not alive. You're not human.
Like legitimately worry about. And then there's the sleep anxiety cycle, right? So I'm just launching topics, but like when I wouldn't sleep, I'd be anxious about not sleeping. When I'd be anxious, then I wouldn't sleep, and that whole world. So that is my mother load. How
do we follow that?
Perimenopause.
Right.
Discuss.
Yeah, like the lies we tell ourselves, like we have our act together, that we know we know who we are and we haven't taken the time to really go, who am I now after the kids, after the career, or whatever it is. It's like coming really back to this moment in time and the transitions. Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. That's a huge topic.
Yeah. And I think that we often think of anxiety as one thing, right? It's like anxiety attack. Yeah. But I also think that it comes in different forms. For me, growing up, it showed up as trichotillomania. I can't even say that word. OCD, right? It showed up in different ways. It was an internal anxiety that I didn't really recognize, but I functioned through it. I adapted to it. And I think a lot of us think of anxiety as one thing, but in fact, it's so much more. And I think it's more prevalent today because it's become more mainstream to talk about. I know my kids' generation talks about it all the time. Oh, I'm so anxious. But do they really understand what that means? Can they really understand the true meaning of anxiety? And there are many different meanings of anxiety. I think, Laurie, you might have a different, for you, it's, you experience it as lying to yourself, right? For me, it's about in my teaching, it's really about being disconnected from the body. When we're disconnected from the body to protect ourselves from our environment, we tend to, our chi, our energy becomes misaligned. And when it's misaligned, it then has to go somewhere, right? So it has to signal to you, our body's always talking. It has to signal to you that there's something off. There's something not congruent. There's something that's not aligned. And the more we feel it, unfortunately, the more anxious we get, because now we're trying to fix it, right? So most of the time we're trying to address the anxiety rather than what's really happening, which is the body is trying to tell you something. The body is just trying to speak. And if we could just slow it down, which can make people very anxious.
Yeah,
even do that.
What's there?
Right. And listen, as Laurie mentioned, right? Like, it's so good that you're doing this now, right? that's what I teach too. It's stop, listen, and then make a better choice for the next move. Not a big one, just a small step. What step can you make instead of focusing on the anxiety and stopping it?
Well
I'd like
said.
to hop in here and just also add to that, which is being a shadow worker. What are we not seeing? So for Laurie, it might be the lie of what am I telling myself, or what's my body telling me? But at the end of the day, we can only see what we can see. We can only know what we could know. And then there's the unconscious that's running the show, which, as a shadow worker, it's like how to shine a light in a safe, comfortable way to actually kind of go, oh, I'm just really friggin' scared that I'm not enough. I'm just really friggin' scared that my body's changing and I'm not going to be loved. Or like, what's the thing that's underneath it? And so, going into, well, oh, it's my hormones. Let me fix it this way. Or, oh, let me, think this through. And we can't think our way through the thinking because that's just perpetuating the problem. And so it's tricky. I just want to just put out here, it's tricky.
It is.
And one more thing I was sitting with this morning, Menopause Love Lounge. We talk so much about menopause and we're talking about anxiety. Where I think we forget the word love in the Menopause Love Lounge, which is like, how can we love ourselves so deeply and allow ourselves to be like, wow, how can I support myself and reach out and get the love that I need to really find that thing, that the moving piece to come back to and balance. All right, I'll stop.
Yeah, no, that was great, Junie. That was great.
Can I add something that I really love that Joe Dispenza says? He says that anxiety is the body conditioned to live in a future based on past experiences, and it could be rewired by changing thought patterns and emotional states. I just found that to be pretty profound, that we constantly are bringing ourselves out of presence for protection. And by the way, I think we mentioned in a previous episode, we talked about how in menopause, that's when we start to see everything, right? I think that's why during our menopausal journey, we notice it more. I think it's more amped. And I think Dawn can speak to what's happening scientifically in the body, also not only scientifically, but also in the homeopathic lens, what's happening. I can't wait to hear what Dawn has to say too.
Gosh, I am thrilled to just be fourth because you all said such amazing, powerful things, right? And I was thinking, well, there really is a past, present, and a future to what's happening with anxiety and menopause. So let's start with the present. In the present, as the hormones are dropping, and Andrea and I were talking about this on socials recently because anxiety is such a commonly reported menopause symptom. So as the hormones are dropping, specifically progesterone, it destabilizes GABA, which is our calm down chemical in our neurotransmitter pack, right? So we have unstable GABA. That's the same neurotransmitter. I think it's a neurotransmitter. If I'm getting that wrong, like, don't come for me. But it's the same one that gets disrupted when we drink and then we have a hangover. It's GABA that goes wild during the hangover phase after drinking, and then you get hangxiety, right?
Ooh.
It's the same thing that's getting affected during menopause and the decline in the hormones. So there is a very real present neurochemical component to feeling increased anxiety right now. However, I think you've said so many beautiful things about the identity shifts. And I would like to tell a brief story about a time I went to a bachelorette party. Why would I be at a bachelor party? That
would be fun.
Unless you're dancing.
Dawn, is there something we need to know about you?
Secret stripper career.
Tell us about the night at the bachelor party.
Bachelorette party in Charleston last summer. And the bride was older than me. She's postmenopausal, right? But her daughters were younger. And we went to the club in Charleston. We went to several clubs. And I hadn't been in a club in a hot minute. And I was not the cute, hot chicks like I was the last time I was in a club. You know what I mean? And it completely shook me that night. Like, shook me. I was like, who am I? Where did I go? Do I matter in this room? And clearly I was measuring it into context of, do these people want me? Not, do I belong in a room with really great music and really great whatever, right? Really great company and really great blah, 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 right? Like total neurotic, like spiral, right? And I think that piece about the who was I, who am I going to become piece of identity that kicks up all this anxiety. I think that what Laurie opened with, the sandwich generation thing, the amount of pressure, the lack of alignment, right, that the other ladies have spoken to, that's what menopause is causing us to reconcile is, the historical things that have never been processed. We're being taxed now, right? Because we didn't deal with it. And then I think when we're used to things being familiar, even if it's familiar and not functional, it's familiar and it's predictable and we know how to work inside of it. And when everything seems uncertain, which is what menopause is, a door that menopause opens, is I don't know how it looks in the future. I don't know where I'm going to be at the end of this journey. Everything feels new. So my car is in the shop right now. And so I have a loaner car. It's a perfectly lovely loaner car. It's a very expensive, very lovely loaner car. But I don't get in the car in the morning and just know where everything goes. All of a sudden, it's first thing in the morning, and I have to think really hard about how to back out of my driveway. It's dumb, but like if you think about menopause like that, where everything suddenly is new and it's taxing, like there is an amount of energy that requires. And that in and of itself, I think is enough to kick up anxiety for people. So I think it's so layered.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So true.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so good. So it's interesting because, by now everybody's listened or watched our little mini episodes where they're getting to know everybody. And so I had the pleasure of, hosting each one of you and asking these questions and just listening here. It's such a common denominator that everything starts underneath, right? Like that's what we're constantly hearing when we talk about the anxiety, the brain fog, just whatever we're dealing with. If we're angry, the rage, it's all what's underneath and what we're dealing with. And that was a very common denominator between all of our mini episodes, which was interesting. But also, we all talked about how it's an opportunity. Menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause is an opportunity for us to really learn more about ourselves and about our bodies and the changes that we're making, because these conversations would not be happening if we weren't all going through these changes and all these things that are happening to our body. So I love that first and foremost. And then I'm just going to speak on mine that I've dealt with anxiety for a very long time. I've actually been on a medication for it for like 7 or 8 years, just to kind of keep me a little bit more calm.
I was too, until homeopathy for sure.
Yeah. See, yeah. And so a lot of it for me comes from worrying. My mom was a big, big worrier. Everything, she was constantly worrying about things that were like, I'd go, Mom, why are you so worried about that? Like it's so far out, or it may not even happen, and she just couldn't help it. So it was very hard for me to get past that. And, a lot of times I just keep jumping into the future instead of being present in the moment and just really enjoying things. I'm so worried about, what's going to happen tomorrow. So then that anxiety creeps in. And so we really have to kind of train ourselves to slow our minds down and kind of get ourselves in a good place, right? Because when anxiety kicks in for me, I start questioning my abilities and I start feeling less than for some reason. It becomes because you've got so many things going, oh no, I'm not good enough to do this. Or, I start rethinking that something I was very excited about doing, a project or, a job, a booking or whatever. And then suddenly this anxiety creeps in and now you're like, oh, I'm not good enough to do that. Yeah. Yeah. And I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome too. I think all of those really tie in together and comes from that nervousness or the anxiety.
Oh, man, we learned about that in your little mini episode, how you were, you would be afraid to go on like a call or an interview.
Oh yeah, I was terrified. Yeah, you had asked me like if I thought my old self would be here today doing what I'm doing, and no way. I was so terrified to talk on the phone to anybody. I would get I'd start shaking. I get all nerves, short circuiting. And it was just crazy. And so honestly, that led over into my dating life too, to talk about love with menopause, that it put me in a very, very anxious space. And it started to make me doubt myself in ways that can affect your actual reality. And so that was very tough. I was very anxious with like, oh, they haven't, returned my message. They don't like me anymore. Or, and you set yourself up and then you drop yourself down. It's so crazy. You just keep doing this. And so it's nice, I think, at this stage to kind of start recognizing those things a little bit more and trying to dig deeper and figure out where they come from so that we can get ourselves in a nice, calm place, because we have worked really hard to get where we are in our lives today. We have held down the fort for so many years when you think about job and family and friends and podcasts and our schedules, everything that we are throwing into the mix, and we're handling it beautifully. And we just got to really appreciate that, I think. So,
yeah. I was well said. I was just facilitating a workshop, and one of the ladies mentioned her anxiety. And one thing she mentioned was that the only time she's not in anxiety, typically she's always in anxiety, according to her, and or fight or flight. The only time that she is experienced not being in anxiety is when she's jumped out of a plane.
Oh my God, that would be terrifying. That would be my most anxious moment ever.
Well, she said, we asked her, why do you think that is? And she said that when she jumped out of the plane, there's nothing she could do. There's nothing she could control or fix or change other than
I totally get
correct.
it.
Yeah.
And so it speaks to the reality that we are, anytime we are not present, we're not telling the truth, we're not there in our body, anxiety can show up. Yeah. Very quickly.
For me, one of the things, well, it's like chicken or egg for me. My anxiety, I put with sleep deprivation. So I had such horrible insomnia when my menopause really kicked in, and I'm talking about horrible sleep deprivation. And so what would show up in the middle of the night was that anxiety. I can't sleep. Oh my God, I'm up again. Oh my God. And then throughout the day, the anxiety. And when I tried to troubleshoot it with all the different things before I went on HRT, but all the different things that I kept finding out it was anxiety that was being treated for me to sleep. And I was like, oh, well, wait a second. So I'm bringing this up because I found it confusing. I still find it confusing.
Yeah.
It's like, was it my shifting in my life? Was it my inability to stay present, which I do Dr. Joe a lot, and being really present with this moment and all that stuff? Was it my inability to adjust to my identity change and being single at the time and what's coming? Was that contributing it? Was it the hormone changes? Like, what did I really need? And I just wanted to bring this piece in because there's a lot of moving parts. And I think adding on the pressure of, I've got to figure this out. I need to be in the present moment. I need to calm down. It adds to the problem often. A shooter is in the room. How do we say, okay, I hear that, and let me be loving, let me be gentle, and take the next step and reach out and listen to these episodes and not feel so alone, and get some homeopathy or do some shadow work, like whatever it is to move the needle, and for me, not make myself wrong. Like, I should have gotten the shoulds. I should have had my act together more. I should have more money. I'm not set up, whatever it is. I just wanted to bring in that I was confused, still trying to figure it all out, and being gentle with myself, because if I'm not gentle with myself, it's just insult to injury, and just coming back to present moment, and releasing anything that doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah. Laurie?
Sorry, Judy, you just made me think of this moment that I wanted to share with all of you, which is that day after day after day, I would complain to my husband in the morning about my sleepless nights and just like how it was going to ruin my day, and I come to finally realize, he explains to me that he also sleeps like absolute crap. He just doesn't
tell you.
No, he just doesn't
mind.
It's like, imagine the experience with none of the story, right? All the experience with none of the judgment.
Without the story.
The amount that I was like, this is wrong. I am wrong. I am bad. What is wrong with me that I can't control my mind? I can control my mind during the day. Why can't I do it at night? Like, I was weighing myself down. So when he said that, he was like, well, who cares that you didn't sleep? I'm like, what? It never occurred to me. Who cares that I didn't sleep? Oh, so you feel tired? Who cares? like oh, like it doesn't mean what you're attributing it to. And I was shocking.
Yes, but I think that speaks also to the way that we're built differently. And I would say that to Junie's point about there being a lot of moving parts, I would like to say that there is one unifying part that is very, very, very common, and that is the identity most women have built on overfunctioning. There's a remedy.
100%.
Yeah. There's a remedy that is one of the most commonly prescribed remedies, at least in my practice. And there was a book even written about it called The Impossible Cure, The Promise of Homeopathy, because it was able to resolve this little boy's autism, and the mom was a double PhD NASA scientist. Anyways, I'm in the weeds. That particular remedy addresses the identity most women have developed that causes us to overfunction and in essence deny our humanity. Deny our humanity.
Wow.
Snap on that.
And what happens during menopause is we have denied our humanity for so many decades that now the body can no longer bear up under the weight.
Yeah.
And nor could it harmonize.
And it's literally stuck in disease processes. And that sounds dramatic and scary. I want you to hear that there is a solution. There are infinite solutions.
Oh my God. We want to know what solution.
Yeah. Give us some of the solutions.
Oh, well, I mean, we all are speaking of them, right? Like, first of all, 4 out of 5 of us, and 5 out of Andrea, I got to send you your bottle. We're all on said remedy. Like every single one of us, Karen too. We're all taking this particular remedy. All of us, right?
Oh,
and so
are we not going to name
the only
it?
Sane one here.
You're the only. No, it's when I said to you,
Sane one.
You probably need a new remedy. That's the one I would send you. Right?
Yeah,
like that's
the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's for the little girl who had a mom or worried constantly. So the little girl didn't feel safe when she was, you know what I mean? Like it's just life on life's terms, right? But the way many of us women, especially working moms, have come at that, right, is to just say, I'll just do more. I'll just do more. I'll just take that on. I'll take that on. I'll take that on. And so the tools are all the things we've said: touch grass, breathe, get to know yourself, find alignment, take a remedy, menosleep. Like, let's talk about menosleep for a minute. And because when we talk about that GABA, that declining or that unstable GABA, menosleep is particularly formulated to help stabilize GABA. Great. There's so many tools, right? So
I'm so much calmer since I started taking
stabilize your GABA.
I'm just finding so much more peacefulness throughout the day and sleep, of course.
Of course. And that's great. I love that. And I love that we're throwing ideas out there and products and things that people can kind of grasp onto, because I think we're all searching for something to help us get through this. And there's so much information out there in every different direction. And the only information that they really need comes from the Menopause Love Lounge. So I think
just stay here with us. We'll tell you everything.
We got you. To the Holy Grail.
Wait, did Ozzy say her personal reflection? I'm not sure.
You might not have, or were you just answering?
I started to, because I was actually going to point out what you said about your husband, because I'm someone that also, because I'm an overfunctioner, I have all the the perfectionist, all of that, right? So I learned to adapt to the anxiety, and just as a kid, I also would be like, no sleep, great, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Like, but that's not to say it doesn't catch up to you. And so thank you for bringing that to here. As I entered my perimenopause stage, that's when it hit me hard. And I was like, now I know what everyone I work with goes through. Yeah. It's those thoughts. My kids are going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to have cancer. Like all those ruminating, looping thoughts that just in the body and what the body does. And it just feels so right. So I literally had to reteach myself and use the tools that I teach in harmonizing, in coming. And again, I learned that you don't begin. I didn't have to begin when it was that high or that hot, that I had to start beforehand.
That's the trick.
Right? But that's the trick, right? Like, how can we mitigate? Like, and we talked about this in a previous episode as well, with that, the Western medicine doesn't really teach us how to preemptively work on things that could turn into something else, right? So I think with anxiety, it's something that if you don't have a present practice every single day, or a remedy or something that can help your body harmonize and come back to its natural
Yeah, and that's
state.
what the remedies did for me, and it's what they're doing for you, right? Is where I don't have to have a practice for my anxiety every day, because I don't have anxiety every day anymore. Like what a novel idea. I did my whole life. Yeah, but not anymore.
Yeah. So it's all good.
Wow.
I would love to just piggyback on something Dawn said a couple of minutes ago about the bachelorette party.
Possibly bachelor.
We'll talk about that offline, or maybe not. I just remember this interview. It was years ago with Elizabeth Lesser. She's one of the founders of the Omega Institute, and I remember her talking about being in her 50s. I just always remember this standing out, and her saying, "And then there was this moment when I realized I'm not a babe anymore." Mm-hmm. And when she realized I'm not a babe anymore, there was this moment of ouch. And then there was a moment of, oh, and release and excitement. And I don't have to put any energy into being the babe. I could just show up, and I'm just totally riffing on this, but she just dropped into the power of not having to be a certain way and arriving into this wonderful, powerful stage of life. And the only thing that I see missing in our ability to do that shift is the belief that we're losing babeness, we're losing power, we're losing something. But as soon as we can go, okay, this is not where I am anymore, and this is where I am, and that reclamation of all of who we are, that to me changes everything.
Yeah,
so
because
I just wanted
all
to
we're really
riff
losing
on that.
is immaturity, right? Like,
yeah, you're right.
That's it.
And do we really need to be the babe? We are babes in our own amazing, beautiful, empowered ways.
Yeah.
And we're gaining wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we shine when we own it.
When we own it, that's the difference, right? Imagine I had walked around that club like, I'm a hottie. I belong here because I want to be here, right? But that's not how I walked around. Right? Exactly. That's the piece that's missing for so many women is owning it.
Yeah. 100%. Wow.
Ooh,
I love this. Ozzy, why don't you tell us what is going on out there in the stats? What's everybody else going through? Are we the only ones?
I am so honored that I get to step into Karen's perfection in creating stats. So thank you for giving me that opportunity today. So what we found is that perimenopause is one of the highest risk windows for first onset anxiety, depression in women's lifetime. So even among women with no prior mental health history, for some populations, the risk rivals or exceeds the postpartum period.
That makes sense.
Any thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is one of the most immune compromising moments in a woman's life. It is an incredibly physiologically stressful event. What is that called when people get? What you just said it. When we get our period, what's that called? Menarche. What do we call it in the vernacular? Puberty.
I don't know. Who said it?
Puberty.
When we get our period for the first time. Wow, brain fog happening right now
for all of us.
Anyways,
hold on.
I said postpartum period.
Oh, you said postpartum. Wow. Okay. So when we get our period, when we get pregnant and have babies, and when we go through menopause are the three most physiological and immune compromising events in our lives. You said postpartum, I heard period, but both are accurate, right?
But you were right, menarche.
Okay. So there's got to be a more commonplace word for it than that. But anyways,
I love good words.
Your special friend.
Riding the crimson wave. Flow. So yeah, that makes sense to me because it is such a taxing event to our actual bodies. It is so much for it to integrate at once that yes, we will see is again this reckoning we talk about. And it's very curious. You're saying certain populations. I could take some stabs in the dark at what those would be. But yeah, the more compromised populations that maybe have lesser access or less consistent access to healthcare and those kinds of things, right? And then, there's an accumulation of stuff that bursts.
Yeah, and also speaks to how incredible being a woman, how incredibly powerful we are just in the nature of, the initiations we go through as women. and what we, right, like the reckoning and the grief that comes with each initiation, and how much it, again, taxing on the body and what it does. We don't often stop or slow down to acknowledge that. And I think I think going through menopause, the menopause season, midlife, is just a beautiful time to really come to terms with that.
Huge opportunity. Huge.
Wow.
Okay, so we have number 2.
Yeah.
Research shows that estrogen volatility, not simply low estrogen, predicts mood instability. It's a fluctuation that destabilizes the stress response system, which mirrors the lived experience of identity unpredictability. Any thoughts on that?
Neato.
Oof.
Sounds true.
There's an explanation for everything that's happening in our body mind at all times. That's what I want women to know. Like, whatever you're experiencing, when people say, I feel anxious for no reason, I'm like, I promise you it's not for no reason. Like,
there's a reason.
There are many reasons, and I promise you it's very clear. Like, there is always a reason. Yeah, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You are not crazy.
You're not crazy.
Nor are you alone in this.
Do you have another one?
That's yes, we have one more, ladies. Studies published in Menopause I guess it's a magazine, indicates that women with history of childhood adversity or trauma are significantly more likely to experience severe mood disruption during perimenopause, suggesting this transition can reactivate stored stress patterns. Hello, we've been talking about this, right?
Yep.
If it's not dealt with, it's gonna show up in some way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and just
like
all the
times that we're like, I got this.
To add, like, what is happening there, right? Because for those of us that have these adverse child experiences, who tend to have more things like chronic migraines and chronic, or like infertility and chronic pain syndrome, fibromyalgia, whatever, like all the things that we have, we also tend to have a heck load of disassociation, right? We have all that content often disassociated. It is stored somewhere, but it has nervous system patterns, right? And again, when the hormones reduce, a lot of those hormones were providing buffering. And when the buffering goes, the dissociative structure destabilizes, and here comes this outpouring of actually trauma content. But we don't necessarily connect the dots and realize that it ties directly to those early childhood experiences. We tie it to my husband's being an ass, the dishes are in the sink, right? My kid got a C. I don't know. We tie it to all these other stories, but it's actually a flooding of old stuff. Yeah.
And some of which is not ours, right? Some of it is generational.
Absolutely.
That
absolutely
just comes flooding in.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks, Ozzy, for sharing.
Do we get to do play our court game now?
We do.
Court
All right,
game.
ladies.
Okay.
It is
Anxiety.
time. We're going to lighten things up a little bit
Goodbye.
here, because if there's one thing that menopause and anxiety can do, it's make us question absolutely everything. So we're going to put it to the test. Okay, so welcome to Menopause Court, Overthinking Edition.
Music here.
We do.
Please stand for the Honorable Andrea Kanoki.
That's good. I need a gavel. I need a gavel, not my boom. Okay, so here.
That's pretty loud.
Ooh, that was pretty good. I like it.
Court in order.
We're making our own. Okay, so I am going to present you guys with a scenario that women commonly experience in midlife. Okay, then you're going to decide whether they are guilty, which this is anxiety overload, just messing with you, or which guilty will be red, or justified. This is the feeling that actually makes sense and it deserves attention. Okay, so we've got guilty is green, guilty is red.
Correct.
Justified is green.
Andrea.
Okay. I know. Got to get my colors right. Okay, so here we go. Number 1. You reread a text 5 times before sending it because you're worried how it will sound. What do we think there? Is that just anxiety, overthinking?
Oh, okay.
Or is that kind of justified? I think yes.
I'm confused with the. I think I'm confused
guilty.
with the justified.
If they're guilty, we're like boo, guilty. Does that help?
Guilty,
Guilty
overthinking.
We're not booing anxiety.
Not booing.
I
had to do a thumbs
It's
down
not
to
an
make it make
optimized
sense.
behavior pattern. We would like people to feel just more authentic and easy in their bodies than that is what we're saying. We're saying
I check my text messages 5 times.
Before you
Sorry,
resend
guys.
them.
Are you anxious when you do it?
Or is that just behavior, your normal habits?
It's there is a moment of anxious, and there's a moment of taking a breath and trusting that whatever. So eventually it goes out. So I think I'm justified because it's my process.
Okay.
Is it really 5 times?
Sometimes it's more.
5?
Sometimes it's more. Yeah.
That's leading into
that sounds like a pattern.
It's okay. Well, hold on. I haven't done that because Dawn might. The remedies I'm on is probably going to cure me of that. It's just going to, because I've been more of like, F you, I'm just sending
Have you been sending it?
So,
yeah, I was going to ask. Like, have you seen it?
Yeah. Or saying it.
But wait, Ozzy, how did OCD play out?
I was going to say that's trichotillomania showing up in a different.
So trichotillomania is one of them. That's pulling hair.
No, but would you check things repetitively?
Nope. That's the only thing. But my son checks. Yeah, my son checks the lights.
Different flavors of the same thing.
Exactly.
Though, isn't
different
it?
flavors of the same thing. All right, Andrea.
Okay. All right. Hijack. Number 2, you suddenly feel like you're not as capable at work as you used to be. Is that just anxiety, overthinking, or is that justified? That's like, maybe something's going on there.
That's a really hard one because, the world should be set up. The world should be set up for us to recalibrate at this time, and it's not. So therefore, it is justified to rethink everything. However, it would be nice if we could just call that anxiety.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it may be a little bit of both because, right, we're obviously overthinking. We're anxious about what people are thinking of us. Are we doing a right job for it? Am I as good as I used to be? But I think it's also just our society today.
Yeah, I think I have overworked most of my life. And I think that working like 35 hours feels distressing to me. Like I'm not doing enough, So I think really hitting a wall and saying like, no, actually I cannot do as much is actually healthy.
Yeah. True. Okay. So you cancel plans because your social battery is completely drained. Is that that's just normal,
we were
right?
really hot on this.
Agree.
Justified.
Everybody is justified.
Hold on. But let's carve out things that are actually good for you because sometimes we are being bratty and canceling self-care, exercise, important friendships for other reasons besides just recalibration.
True.
I'm just
true. And sometimes I notice like, I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm like whining about it. And then you go
and have so much
and you're
fun.
like, I'm so glad I went. Yeah. You have so much fun. Though. It gives you, we just want to sit home and woe is me sometimes, right? Or sit in front of the TV on the couch and just do nothing. But like when you actually get up and do it.
Yeah. I do think cell phones sort of ruined us for gathering, right? We got so comfortable scrolling on a sofa versus like before there were cell phones, like we had to go see each other.
You had to.
No other way.
Just watch the party on your phone.
Yeah.
And stay on the couch.
And with that said, if we're exhausted and we're spent and it's just energy out, even if it's something that seems great to do, I've been there often. It's like, no, I don't need that. I would like it. And I really need to stop.
Yeah.
And I really need to give to myself energetically in a very different way, which might mean Virgin River. I mean, I don't know,
It's very calming.
Slow down.
But I think you get feedback when the other person's like, "Oh, thank God you said that."
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't want to do it either. Right. I'm like, okay, I was right. Like, how do you know if you made the right choice? Like later, if I'm regretting that I didn't exercise, then I'm like, okay, maybe I was being a brat. But if the other person's like, "Oh, great, I love that. I love the cancellation," then I'm like, okay,
we're just
confirmed.
Yeah.
All right. You start wondering if everyone secretly finds you annoying. Is that just overthinking anxiety or is that justified?
Or is it that you are more annoying?
Yeah. You might be annoying.
Menopause.
I already know I am.
Okay. I really want to give a two-sided answer here.
Okay, go.
Because I do think we are in a society that neurotically says like, oh, are you mad at me? Like too often, but we're not actually taking our own inventory in a meaningful way. So I do appreciate a good self-inventory taking. Laurie Gerber does it every single day. She sends it in a text message where she took her own inventory. It's a 10th step in, AA. Like a good inventory taking is valuable, but if it's the neurotic, like, oh, am I, and it's like the little girl who's worried she's being left out of the group, like, I don't know, then that's, we need a little empowerment.
Both ways.
And also grace for that little girl.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Okay, so you decide at 2 a.m. that you need to completely change your career, relationship, or life direction when you are awake in the middle of the night because you didn't take Menno sleep. What are you doing?
Oh my God.
And yet you can have some really cool ideas in the middle of the night, but don't make any big
I know.
decisions in the middle of the night.
If it's 6 at 9 a.m., you can start researching.
Can I just tell you how many Amazon boxes come to my door some days, and I'm like, when did I order this? I mean,
at 2 a.m.
Maybe I didn't. I mean, sleep is not my problem, but on nights where I didn't, sometimes Amazon gets my money somehow.
Yes. Well, you can hear in my little mini episode interview that this all came about at 2 a.m. This entire podcast.
There you go.
I was writing down names at 2 a.m.
But you didn't
so
cancel
your
knock it. It's a fine time to ideate, but not to execute.
That's right. That's right. All right. 2 more. You need more alone time than you used to. Is that anxiety or is that just you're justified? Right? We just do.
Justified.
Yes. Right?
Obviously,
we're
as long as it's for self-care and it's not for disassociating.
Yeah, shutting down.
Yeah.
Or isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, good one. Okay. Last one. You feel more sensitive to criticism than you were 10 years ago. You're very, very sensitive to criticism now. Is that just our anxiety or overthinking or are we justified? I think it's a little bit of probably where we are, right? We're going through all this stuff.
Yeah.
We're human. We're human.
Yeah, that's like
a human
as
experience.
Ozzy always says. Yes, and
Yeah. So
we're human. We've got things going on, and
so we all gave that as like kind of an anxiety overthinking, but it really plays into the big scheme of it all, right?
Yep.
That's where it kind of is. All right, you guys. Well, the court has spoken. We are adjourned on Menopause Court Overthinking Edition. Thank you so much. Legs are closed. So for anyone listening out there who feels like they're losing their minds some days during menopause, well, you might not be crazy. I mean, you could be, right? But
there's an explanation.
We're going to hope you're not. There's an explanation for everything. So dig deeper. Your brain and body are going through a massive shift, and we need to remember that. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to learn what to challenge the anxiety, right? Or when to challenge the anxiety, and when to listen to what it's trying to tell us. So we need to pay attention to it. I think we've said that many, many times. So if this episode made you guys think, laugh, we hope, because we know we're freaking funny, or feel a little more seen, do us a favor, share it with a friend, somebody who's going through a little anxiety and wants to hear that they're not alone. Share this episode with a friend, and we would love for you guys to follow us on Menopause Love Lounge on TikTok and Instagram. You can email us with any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions at theladies@menopauselovelounge.com. All right, you guys, there are plenty of episodes for you to be listening to and viewing on YouTube, so go check them out. They're so good. We've got a lot more coming. So that's it for us in the lounge today, ladies. Nice job. Great catching up with you all. Love ya. See you next week.
We out.
Bye.